Right. Good evening, everybody. And good evening to those that are watching already. And good evening to those that are going to be watching afterwards. It's 7 o'clock South African time. And we hope that there's people anywhere in the world that can learn something out of this message. It's a privilege to sit here tonight. And everything that I do day by day, every day that I live is borrowed time, in my opinion. So we can just wait for all the people. Hi Lucille, hi Sharon, Mr. Hall, hi Lindy. Nice to have you guys watch. Oh, Richie's also here. That's good. We miss you, Richie. Good evening, Almore. Big J. So we'll just give a couple of minutes for the people to join us. And tonight I will be sharing my life story as I know it. And there's obviously bits and pieces that I don't remember and that people have other versions of. Good evening, Auntie Connie, welcome. Nice to see you watching. And just want to start off with saying the Serenity Prayer, and just hopefully that my message of the tests and the trials that I've been through in my life, through different stages, can reach a parent or a loved one, or a son or a daughter, or someone that is related to a person that suffers with the illness of addiction. Because the only thing that I can put my behavior down to, and the bondage and the repeated mistakes over the years, is either God was trying to teach me something, or God was trying to use me to get me to where I am today so that I can share my experience, strength and hope. So I'm going to start off with saying the Serenity Prayer. And after that, just a minute or a few moments of silence for the still suffering alcoholic and addict, for the people that haven't found what I've found. Hi Lee J, all the way from UK. So wherever you are in the world, you can say it with me. Okay. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And then I just want us all to think of the still suffering addict that hasn't got an opportunity or hasn't found what we found yet. Keep them in our thoughts and our prayers tonight. And to the loved ones lost to addiction. Because it can happen to anyone. Okay. First of all, I want to start off by saying thank you to the RAEL organization that has walked a very long road with me. Anthony Hall is the founder of this organization, and I have the privilege today of my life experience benefiting me to the point where I can help others today. And that is what my passion has become. When I did get involved with RAEL, my first company and my first connection with RAEL was in 2007, when the founder Anthony Hall started support crew meetings in various areas. And at that stage in 2007, I was already pretty beaten up by my behaviors, drugs, alcohol, crime, and everything that goes along with it. Guilt, remorse, and stuck in a circle of bad behaviors, justifying my lifestyle, because at the time I still had I was still able to work, and at that stage I was what they called a functioning addict. I lived a double life then, but I'm going to take you through the series of things leading up to there. A lot of people think that a person that becomes addicted to drugs or alcohol or any substance or all the behaviors that go along with it are bad people. I believe that I was a very sick person, because that's the only thing that I can put that behavior down to. There's a lot of inhumane things that I won't share in detail tonight, but in the hope that somebody can identify with that, so that you know you're not alone. And even people with non-addictions have done bad and wrong things in their life. It's Coke, by the way. And so basically, in my opinion, and through what we see daily, I believe that addiction is the greatest equalizer. It doesn't look at the job that you got. It doesn't look at your qualifications. It doesn't look at how you were raised, your background, or anything. It can happen to anybody, and I believe that I didn't have much of a choice. I was a bit ignorant. I started off using different things to get high at a young age, before I even knew that it was actually classified as drugs. I came out of a very good family. I got an older sister that's 4 years older than me. Parents loved us a lot. Middle class household. Dad worked very hard. Mom was at home with us, done everything that normal families do, or what we call normal families. And Dad worked hard to put everything and give us everything that the way we should. So in saying that, is that I don't believe it's in my case anything to do with my parents' fault, because myself and my sister was raised in exactly the same household, and she's never touched substance in her life, or walked the road that I've walked. So from there, I think in reflection, I was always looking for attention and things like that, whether it was good attention or bad attention. And I found probably that, not knowing it at the time, but realizing it years later, it didn't matter which attention it was. So I noticed that I got more attention for doing the wrong thing. As I went through to high school, you got the demerit system and get detention for doing things wrong and that. I always questioned why I get something like demerits or punishment when I do something wrong, but I don't get it when I do something right. And that is what brought me to the realization that that you're meant to be doing the right things, and the reward is life and all the good things that go with it. So yeah, I was pretty naughty. I wouldn't say I was born an addict, even though there is people that struggle with substance and alcohol abuse further in the family tree, like most, and there is a possible genetic part of it. But I always liked attention, and I'd done extreme things. How's it, Craig? I done some extreme things to get attention. Was always in the principal's office, and sometimes it was just being naughty. But I think it was more to be noticed or be accepted, and I went through life like that. I did pretty well at school. I was a little bit lazy, but I managed to pass like I needed to, and things like that. Started inhaling different substances and things like that, like lighter gas and tip extenders and all of that at that time in the early 90s was sort of what was happening and going around. And then obviously it progressed to dacha and drinking, and we thought it was innocent at the time, not ever believing that one day I would be dependent on any substance to function. And it was fun. I passed at school. I had casual jobs going into high school. I had goals. I had dreams. I was excelling in the things that I should have been excelling in. I played sport, and I always had from a young age. I had a good work ethic and things like that. My dream was obviously to study to become a chef. I was a naughty guy in high school. My first week in high school, I was told by the metalwork teacher to get myself or find myself another subject, and sort of forced my way into the home economics class, which was right up my alley because it was a class full of girls, and there was lots of attention there. I could be the class clown and all of that, and I loved it. But what I found there is also that I had found a passion and a love in the hospitality or the cooking and that sort of industry, where from a young age I had a couple of casual jobs sort of in that industry, starting off from the fisheries to bakeries and things like that. People in my community that was older than me liked me as a kid, knew I was like a naughty guy, but I was always respectful and had morals and values and things like that. So I went through life like that, and eventually around about middle of standard 6, 7, I was exposed to mandrax. At that stage I was only abusing dacha and a lot of drinking. After my first drink, something just triggered off in me that wanted more of it, that I enjoyed the feeling and didn't think that it would end up where it would, or where it was going. So then later on I started abusing substance a little bit heavier. I was obviously ignorant or a little less educated at that time about the more serious drugs and things. And we done a lot of partying from a young age. I done a lot of lying to my parents and things like that. They were always present and part of my life in high school. It was through my own rebellion and lying. And today I noticed that lying escalated, and that that when you're doing something wrong, you have to start lying about it. And the lying and all of that escalated. I still had my dreams and goals, but I was already then living a double life. I was portraying one face in front of mom and dad, and living another life when I left the doors. And so it progressed, and I was willing to try anything. One of the big things in my life that stand out for me was in the holidays of '99. I was 14 years old, and and I think, in my opinion, I was pretty streetwise for that age at that time. It was obviously different to the times now, where I wasn't interested in TV and games and doing things at home. I was very social. I loved people, and the problem was possibly that I loved all kinds of people. Um, so I could get along with all kinds of people as well. So the people that lived the sort of what they call normal, I was on okay terms with, and then I was on okay terms with the older crowd that was already addicts and substance abusers, and obviously we don't want to mention names unless, like, the people's names that don't mind being mentioned. Um, I might mention a little bit later, and then what happened was I experimented with Malpeter. At that stage, I was sort of open to taking anything that people were talking about, and all of that. I believed at that time that smoking cigarettes, doing drugs, being naughty, and those were all the things that made you cool. And in my opinion at the time, there was nothing wrong with my life because I was passing at school. I was doing what I needed to, even though sometimes I was only there 3 days a week. Excuse me. Um, I I preferred not to go to school sometimes. I liked going on the Fridays, especially because then we could find out what was going on the weekend and who was doing what and all of that. And in the holidays of 98, 99, I I experimented with what they call Malpeter. Um, I overdosed, and at that stage, I'd already tried tried a little bit of ecstasy and things, but there was something in me that it sort of didn't matter what it was, what I would use. Um, that just made me feel better than what I did when I was normal. It excited me. I felt more confident, um, and something felt like it fitted with me. So I overdosed on what they call malpita. It's a poisonous plant which is a hallucinogenic. I landed up in hospital, and I seen animals and all kinds of things. I was in a surveillance room with a friend of mine in in hospital. His mom found me lying with one leg on the bed and one leg on the floor, staring at my hands. I remember none of this because I was blacked out, with my lips blue, and uh, and at 14 years old, he was waking his parents up to tell them fundamava jokes and all kinds of funny things. Um, we were then rushed to hospital. Um, I came out of my blackout and things like that with a nappy on, and was in a wheelchair for a couple of days. And I didn't smoke cigarettes then, for 9 days, because I forgot that I was a cigarette smoker. And the family was all around the bed. I thought that what are all these people doing in my bedroom and all of that. And it took me a couple of days to realize that I wasn't in a hotel. I was in a hospital. Um, and the story after that was that they told my parents that if I do survive, I would possibly be a vegetable, or not come out of the what they call trip. I wouldn't come out of the trip. I would see things forever, and all of that. The stomach was pumped, and I couldn't walk. I had bandages on my knees from falling the whole time, scars on my head afterwards, and things like that. But I recovered from that, and however, that wasn't a scare enough for me to, I was that guy when people came to try and carry the message at schools and things like that. I would look at the guy talking on the stage about addiction and what it had done in his life, and say like, hey, that guy doesn't know how to control his stuff. I always knew better, wouldn't listen to many people, and it just progressed. I loved partying and things like that at the time, and as I said, I couldn't see the harm in it. I didn't know that at the time when I left the house, my parents were worried. At that stage, I'd given them lots of things to sort of worry about. Um, just being a sort of naughty guy, naughty but respectable. People's parents loved me, so I used that as a front. But when they speak about the guy that you shouldn't hang around with, that's a bad influence. Um, I know that at the time it could have possibly been me. And still passing and things at school, things obviously escalated. I started smoking buttons and taking more drugs, and experimenting with more things. The drinking escalated, and I found myself going to school less and less. Um, I failed standard 8, done it for the second time. I took myself out of school and lied to my parents that I was still going to school for the beginning of standard 9, and then my dad gave me an ultimatum: if I want to carry on staying there, I will get matric, and still had the decent good heart to help me pursue in getting my matric, because obviously my parents' best wishes for me was to do the right thing and to get somewhere in life. So, I was fortunate to have parents like that helped me to do home studies and things like that. And as things progress, there's many stories. Obviously, I don't want to go through the whole glamorizing of stories. I'm actually just trying to already implant the thought in your mind of how God's grace has been with me all through my doings and things like that. There was times then after that when I started going to clubs where I would black out and drink myself to a standstill. There was times I was asked to leave clubs. In case I die inside there, my eyes are rolling back. I've got blue lips. Um, I found myself hiking in the wrong directions already, coming out of blackouts in other people's cars, not knowing where I am, and all kinds of things. Losing IDs, losing cell phones, walking home bare feet, not knowing where I was, and things like that, and then just repeating that and escalating. And like I said, that at that stage, the outward was still sort of functional. I passed my matric. I then got an opportunity to go and study as a chef through Protea Hotel Saldanha Bay, and that was when I moved there. At this stage, just before that, I was working in a bakery, and in my mind, I was well on my way to the career, and the plans that I had for my life was to eventually get on the cruise liners, see the world for free, live the dream, and make lots of money. Um, and at that time, money came easy, drugs came easy, and it was just sort of easy for me at the time to function. Also, knowing that if I'd fall, I had a safety net, that I could always phone my parents, and they were always willing to help, because at that stage they didn't know everything that I was doing. So I got a apprenticeship in Saldanha Bay. I done really well there, really well. That was my first industrial hotel that I worked at. and I done an orientation year there. Done lots of drugs, and that is where the sort of loneliness kicked in, and the drugs also escalated. You know, there's obviously many things that happened that play emotional part in between as well. There's lots of different emotional sort of stories and things like that, and the one that does also stick out for me, in reflection, in me helping identify or admitting eventually when I got into the program that hey, maybe I do have a problem, or I knew I had a problem, but I only thought that the drugs were the problem, or too much drugs. And I was really hoping that there was a program for me when I came into recovery at RAEL, that that it was going to teach me how to use drugs successfully without losing everything. And I'll get to the parts now where I've lost everything. I've been in situations where I rise completely nicely to the top. I had plenty opportunities in my life, and then just abuse people, abuse drugs, abuse everything around me, and break anything and destroy anything in my way of living, getting, and using more drugs. And yeah, so I got to a point there where loneliness was setting in, and as I was saying, the one thing that sticks out for me in reflection is the death of my grandmother. Is on the morning when that happened, it was a very scary feeling for me, that obviously it was a feeling I wasn't used to, and things like that. And what really sticks out for me there is that I had a friend that we always used to meet in the park, because that was the sort of halfway mark, and we done things in the park, like drink and socialize and all of that. And so then, I just wanted to get out of the house where my grandmother had passed, and things like that. And the minute I had met up with my friend, the first thing that I could do to relieve myself, which at the time I didn't know that I was relieving myself, is when I'm sure people can relate, addicts and non-addicts, that when you're shocked by something, that sometimes you pour yourself a strong whiskey or a strong whatever, and the first thing I done when I met up with my friend at the park, and I was 16 at the time, was smoke a bigger joint than normal. And this was probably about 10 o'clock the morning, and drink about a quarter bottle of Bertram's, and things sort of weren't better, but because of what I had taken in, it sort of conned me to feeling a little bit more okay. And this I didn't identify at the time. I only identified it years later when I went through my life story. And then after that, things got all right after working in Saldanha, also using a lot and things like that. Even then, I can notice in reflection of my life story that I would abuse my parents. I would say to them, how much I want to see them and miss them and be with them, and all of that, as I was living away, and I was only 18 years old. And then wanting to come down to Cape Town on my off weekends, and then getting them to help me organize lifts and all of that from up there on the West Coast. But my desperation wasn't actually to see them. It was actually just to get to Cape Town and go on a fat party, and then make it their responsibility to get me back up to Saldanha to work again. Out of the whole weekend, there was times I would spend only 5 minutes or 10 minutes in their company, and put the mask on that I thought that they should see. So then it escalated in the career side of things. I came back to Cape Town. I started studying culinary skills and professional cookery. I was obviously blessed again and bailed out by my dad once I had thrown the opportunity to study through Protea Hotel away, and and everything was just a jewel to me. It was just, work was a jewel. After work was a jewel. Uh, Gee, it was just, and I really thought I was progressing in the right direction. In one sense, I was obviously progressing in the right direction in my career, but every other area of my life was busy moving down and down and down. Um, I became very good at what I was doing because I was spending more time at work than anybody else. I think the drugs also had an influence on that at the time, because whether it was alcohol, speed, whatever it was that I was taking or withdrawing from or smoking or sniffing, it was okay to be at work during all of that, and I was lucky that I was able to function like that. Also gave me a lot of endurance and things like that, which in my mind at the time was a good thing. Um, so so then I started getting very good at my job and things like that. I qualified in 2003. Um, I got my certificate, and I thought life was great because I got a distinction, like, just, you know, um, and which is a good thing, but it was also a bad thing because it created the impression in my mind that I was doing great, and that I was making it in life. So so then it sorry then it progressed to, I was doing very well in work and all of that. I had my parents' support, and I met a girl, and we had a kid, which is my son Jordan, which is now 15. He's turning 16 this year, and in the 16 years, I don't think that I gave him a bad life, but there was decisions that I needed to make to sort of give him the best that I could. Um, I then realized, and my girlfriend at the time, which is his mother, was completely anti-drugs, and then I started realizing that what I'm doing could be causing problems in my life. A lot of the truths came out, um, where she told my family and my loved ones a lot of the truth about me. Um, and yeah, the relationship wasn't enough for me to stop doing what I was doing. But with the birth of my son, I managed to sort of get my life a little bit more manageable at the time. And I slowed down with the drugs and the partying, and try to take care of the responsibility. I was pretty successful in that year. I was 21 then, and 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 life got better because the drugs got less. I was still drinking, sort of like a gentleman, for a period of time, and and then, my lifestyle changed from being out almost every night, and being very social and all of that, to trying to be a man and taking care of my responsibility, and being at home a lot, and was very different to me. I didn't see the cliques and crowds that I used to hang around with, and 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 then one day, I at this stage, I'd done most drugs, and quite a bit of it at different times, and I hadn't done any for quite a while, and I seen a friend walking over the bridge. I had a very good position at Ratanga Junction at the time, very young, in charge of a lot of things over there in the food and beverage, and I was excelling. I was earning very good money for that time. That is about 15 years ago, and I'd gotten a car. I was progressing, in life properly, and I decided then. At that time, heroin was probably the only drug that I disliked, because I had seen what it had done around me to a couple of people, and I was also a little bit ignorant about the effects of it, and things, and obviously a little bit arrogant as well, thinking that, well, nothing else has brought me down. How's that gonna bring me down? And I had a couple of hits and things like that, and all my responsibilities and all the pressures and everything like that. That specific day at work, I can remember we were under tremendous pressure all the time over there. Very busy place that I worked for, and very long hours, and that day just seemed like the easiest day that I had faced in that year. With my girlfriend at the time being completely anti-drugs, and if I smoked a joint and she seen my eyes was red, it was arguments and chaos and problems and things like that. But I noticed that day when I got home, she didn't notice anything, and she was the kind of person that could tell me what I used, how much I used of it, and when, how long ago I used of it. And nobody noticed anything that day. I maybe just looked a little bit tired, so it escalated and things like that. I had a very good position. Um, I I then started doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing, that I obviously don't want to say on a live video, because I'm sure there's many people that still dislike me for some of my doings and things like that, and even though I don't want to admit it, I am free of it, because I've admitted it and made amends in other ways today for the damage that I've done to different places. So then what happened was, it all escalated. Things got really bad. I started using heroin a little bit more and more and more and more, and eventually I was stealing from my parents. I was stealing everywhere where I went. I had every kind of card that was available that you could get. I maxed them out. I was doing different kinds of other fraudulent things as well, and lifestyle just started declining. That downward spiral started declining. I wasn't doing small things like servicing my car. I was the state of my life just deteriorated, and eventually I started getting locked up for petty crimes and things like that, and life just got progressively worse. I then had my back against the wall at a time, and then begged to go to rehab. But at that time, and it might sound a little bit sick, but I believed that I had a money problem. I didn't believe that I had a drug problem. I really believed that I had a drug problem. I staged breaking into my parents' house as if it was somebody else. I staged breaking into the flat that myself and my girlfriend at the time was living in, as if it was somebody else. There was so many things bad things that are done to people that obviously was against my normal set of morals and values and things like that, which started creating a something wrong feeling inside of me that only at that time that the drugs took away. So life progressed, and then I started job hopping and things like that. It got worse and worse and worse, and eventually I was fully dependent on heroin. I lost everything, and family was on bad terms. I felt really, really bad. There was something wrong inside that that the drugs took away for a while. Um, I later done a prison sentence for housebreaking and theft, and I was locked up and appearing in court sometimes for in the 1 year. I think it was 2009. I was appearing in court once a week. But where the RAEL seed was planted with me was I came out of my first rehab, and RAEL had just started its support group meetings in 2007. And also at the time, except besides believing that I only had a money problem and not a drug problem, I thought that I could use any other drug besides heroin, because that was the only drug that brought me down. And my dad supported me, and today I see the message that Anthony Hall carries and what's worked for him, because I didn't see it at the time, but he was always open to me when I just needed somebody to talk to. When he was doing a 12-step call or doing his program of recovery, he included me. And that was 2007, and we already had quite a close connection, because I felt like I fitted, and something that this man was saying was penetrating. But young at the time, you stop listening, and then you and like I said, a little bit ignorant, thinking I could use anything else besides heroin, not knowing that each time I use something, it's going to definitely progress to heroin again. I learned that the hard way, probably over about 13 years, because there's a natural rebellion or a con inside of me that cons me. Because with addiction and addiction recovery, I've left rehabs before where I believe myself so much that I'll never use drugs again or hurt my loved ones, that you could possibly even give me a lie detector test before I leave that place, and I'll say that I'll never use drugs again. And I believe myself so much that lie detector test will agree with me. I give my people false hope. I do what I need to do for the first week, the first 2 weeks. And who notices my downward spiral first is mom. Because nobody knows us like mom knows us. And we start slipping with our hygiene maybe, or doing the things that we used to do, or and every time I went to a RAEL meeting, even when I wanted to use drugs, or when I had the mindset of wanting to use drugs when I went there, by the time that I left, I didn't want to use drugs anymore. But that was always short-lived, day to day, because I wasn't doing enough of it. And that's why today I do realize through experience that it's much less of a lust. Okay, let me use another word. Much less of a mission to do what I need to do to stay sober through the program that RAEL and Anthony Hall has taught me, than what it is to not do those things and be of service to others. Admit to myself that each time I use, I've destroyed, I've destructed, and messed up a lot. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible here, with as much detail as possible. I've missed a lot. And just trying to give you a picture. We'll continue another time, but so eventually life got bad. I'd done a prison sentence. I was in and out of prison. I lived on the streets, and I take you to the point where I was living on the streets. I was living with addicts. I was only associating with addicts because that's where I felt acceptable, because of the stigma attached to me. And at that point, I had come to a point where I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore, but I did not know how not to do it. Life was a misery on the drugs, but I didn't know how to live off the drugs. And so, I really tried to put in, and I seen after losing connection, or after me losing connection, or putting in the effort to stay connected to Anthony Hall and the RAEL organization, I just spiraled out of control after 2007 and it declined. There was a series of things that happened in my life, and eventually in 2014 I was completely broken and destroyed and distracted in every kind of way, spiritually bankrupt. By that time I had tried different medications, psychologists, um, I tried relocating and things like that, promising myself to wherever I move to, I'm not even going to try and find a dealer or drugs or whatever. And the thing that stands out for me is that 90% of my downfalls always started with me picking up a drink again or going to a bar innocently thinking that I'm just going to have a beer or two, because that isn't what brought me down. But today I know that it's poison and it brings me down because it's part of the downward spiral, and that is the first part of the downward spiral, because there's many addicts like myself at the time that always thought that I could have a drink or just have a joint because it's not sticking a needle in my arm. But my body doesn't know whether that mind-altering substance comes from the bottle store or comes from the pharmacy. I went through a series of time where I got addicted to pharmaceuticals, synthetic opiates that were prescribed to me by corrupt doctors, and things like that. And by the time I'd gotten to RAEL, where Anthony Hall and his partner in the organization had decided to give me a chance. And all I said to them was, I don't know the way out of where I'm at and what I'm doing, and I met up with them for a meeting, and I'd managed to be off heroin for 2 weeks at the time, and I was taking everything else that I could get my hands on, just not to use heroin for that time. Obviously, because of the physical withdrawal, I was in a bad state. Excuse me, I think I weighed about 43 kilos, and then on the 24th of May 2014, obviously in a very bad state, my mom wouldn't give me my toiletries and my couple of clothing items and things like that she had helped me with to start me off at rehab, because all I had was a broken pair of shoes and the clothes that I had on my back. I'll never forget that day that it was raining in Cape Town on the 24th of May 2014, and there was a little part of me that still had a little bit of self-respect. I was wet. I had had the same clothes on for about 3 weeks, and I knew that I'm gonna get not searched, but they obviously, it's procedure to go through your things and stuff like that at rehab, and you would have to take your shoes off because addicts take their chance right to the last, and some of them, even as much as they want help, they want the last hit as well because of the illness. These two people picked me up in front of my mom's house, and I wasn't allowed in the house, not because my parents didn't love me, but because of my previous actions. I'd stolen from them anything that I could, from meat out of the freezer to canned foods to power tools to sentimental items that mean a lot to them. And all I wanted to do was to avoid the embarrassment of getting, when I do get sort of checked for not having drugs on me when I get to a rehab, because by that stage I'd known the procedures when you get to rehab was wash my feet because they were really stinking, and I washed it in the rain. My mom gave me a bucket of warm water, and I still wasn't allowed in her house, and things, obviously through my own actions. And these people picked me up, and I was in such a bad state that I rode in the back of the bakkie, and there was so much pain inside of me, so much pain that the drugs weren't working anymore to take that something wrong and that pain away, where I lied in the back of the bakkie with a blanket over my head, curled up in a fetal position, and all I said to myself was that I I don't want to see the way to where I'm going, because I was so scared of myself that I would make the decision to go the way back, and I didn't want to know the way back. I was treated with so much love and unconditional love, you know. I never got looked at in the way of my weight, or how I looked, or the teeth that was missing, or how sort of dirty I was. There was so much love that was shown to me by these people at RAEL, and there was almost a sense of belonging, unconditional love, that and a belonging that I didn't feel anywhere else. People that looked nice, people that welcomed me, that didn't look down on me, and I want to thank Anthony Hall and his organization, the way he ran it, and the people that he had taught to be like that, to treat other people like that, and show them his ways, the ways that I use today, that I can never judge another addict because I've made mistakes. There's been grace that's been given to me. Today I know that relapse is not a part of recovery, as it said. Relapse is not a part of recovery the way it is said. There is many literatures that say that. Relapse is a lack of recovery in my experience, because I lived a great and I got to a point where I was listening to what this man had to say to me, the love that he was showing for me, and the almost the understanding or sense of belonging that I found amongst these people that I hadn't experienced in looking for acceptance through the wrong crowds and things in my life before, or trying to fit in or get approval through mixing with the wrong people and doing the wrong things, or fill that hole in the soul. And this program that he's taught me, and the lifestyle and the way to process things, I found this okayness and what in recovery we call serenity. And I found appreciation. I was able to be honest with myself because of what this man had taught me. And I think a lot of it was overcome by love, because there was no more looking down on me as the community did. There was no more, where do I get a chance? There was discipline with love. And so much more that goes along with it. I've always said to the guys that come in through the doors that, you know, at 30, I didn't know that some of the best times that I honestly have had in my life has been on this farm and in recovery. Some of the really best feeling times. I've felt better in recovery with a lot less materially than times that I had a lot and there was something wrong inside. It's been difficult, obviously, not to shed a tear, but I do feel it inside, and you know, I would have liked to go deeper into it. It's so difficult to explain what you feel. I was so broken. I didn't believe in myself, but I think because of Mr. Hall's brokenness in his life and the message that was carried to him gave him the purpose. I believe that his purpose was to carry the message to us the way he does, and to give us the love and the time that he's dedicated and put into my life alone. If his purpose was to only save my life and to show me the way out, and I know I've witnessed many productive members of society that was classified no-hopers. I was classified a goner, a never changer. But today I sit here with a solid and happy 18 months of sobriety. After not listening in 2014, in 2016, I made some mistakes and things like that. Got bigger than the game, got complacent, stopped practicing the principles that Mr. Hall had taught me. And the biggest thing that he taught me was that it's not about me, myself, and I, and that the world owes me nothing. I was a taker for most of my life. And today I try and give back what I've taken. Today I can look anybody in the eye through the program and the amends and the dignity and integrity that Mr. Hall has helped me restore back in myself. I've got a amazing fiance today that has stuck by me. I have a beautiful son that is 16 years old, which I believe I could have given a better life. But they say it's never too late to start. And maybe my life's message the purpose of that was so that he doesn't make the mistakes that I make. And I've got a beautiful almost 3-month-old daughter as well. We don't speak about the material, but I'm not doing too bad material from coming in here with nothing else besides the clothes on my back. Nothing else besides the broken and tattered and torn clothes on my back. And then I'd also like to thank the other people. There's not too many, but you guys know who you are. That never gave up on me. That didn't look down on me when I made mistakes. That kept the hope. And then, as I said, in this path of what I believe is maybe a meant to be process so that I can help others, because to see a man's eyes come in here with darkness and pain and parents crying, and to see him, the light come back into his eyes and turn into a productive member of society and the family reunited, I can understand why Mr. Hall does what he does and the way he's dedicated his life to addicts. And that is what it feels like my purpose is today, because I don't believe I had a purpose before that. He has shown me what my purpose is. He's shown me how to get freedom from the inside. And whether I'm up on a house up on the hill with millions one day, or whether I'm down in wherever, if I haven't used, I can feel the peace and the goodness comes from within, and the sharing of his Mr. Hall's program and life's experience and things like that, and not giving up on me. And I sort of want to end off with, to the people that are trying to get into recovery, there is a way out. And always try and think of it that there's an automatic rebellion in you to want to do the right thing. Be humble enough to reach out and ask. There's a saying that goes, it's not recovery that's difficult, it's our resistance to it. It's all those defects. It's the arrogance, it's the pride, it's all those things that kills us. Ask for help, there's help out there. Thank you for helping me, Mr. Anthony Hall, and your organization and what you do and how dedicated you are. I've never seen another person or experienced another rehab owner, CEO, founder of an organization that is always present, that is always loving, and that is always putting in the extra all the time. This can't be a job to you. It must be a passion and a calling, sir. My biggest respect to you, and thank you so much for helping me. And helping me to believe that it's grace, God's grace on my life. Thank you for all the addicts that you have helped out there to find new lives. Thank you for not looking down on us and removing the stigma and being active and putting things into action and showing us a new way of life. A life that makes me want to live, so. Bless everybody. And I'll be back to tell you a little bit more. I had to make you understand where I came from so that you can see where I am now. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about, at another stage, about how my recovery is really gone. It's just been a blessing. That is all it's been. To the guys in recovery, it's been a difficult period for us to identify and have connection on a human level. But I want you to keep one thing in mind tonight. And that is just a little acronym SLIP. We slip or get complacent when sobriety lost its priority, and that we need to put our recovery first so that everything that we love doesn't have to come last. I love all my relatives and everybody that's walked this road with me, and by God's grace I am free today. Thank you to the RAEL organization. We look forward to inspiring a lot more people in the hope that they can find what we found through the program of RAEL and Anthony Hall. Thank you, sir. It's been a real privilege to be able to share and to sit here tonight by God's grace that I believe is borrowed time in my life. God bless you all, and know that there is a God. Thank you very much for listening and being there.